Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the continued version of Ways and Means. It seems like it's just one big meeting that goes on and on and on. So we'll bring the committee meeting back to order, and we are going to open with a BDR introduction. It's BDR S-1205. It revises provisions relating to the state fiscal administration. And remember, members, it's just a BDR introduction. It's not saying that you agree with the BDR or not, but it just helps move it along in the process. So with that, I will accept a motion.
So moved. Second.
I have a motion from Assemblywoman Backus, a second from Assemblywoman Hodeggy. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously of the members present. Thank you. All right, members, because we need to get back to the floor, we won't hear any bills. We are just going to do work sessions. So with that, I will turn it over to our fiscal analyst.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Assembly Bill 6 requires the Director of the Department of Health and Human Services to establish healthcare cost growth benchmarks and takes certain actions related to benchmarks, defines related terms, and requires the Patient Protection Commission to submit benchmark recommendations. There was a fiscal note on this bill from the Division of Healthcare Finance and Policy. The committee may wish to amend the bill to provide general fund appropriations of $33,768 and authorizations of $33,768 in fiscal year 2024, and general fund appropriations of $42,694 and authorizations of $42,694 in order for the division to establish a new economist position. So this would be an amend and do pass.
Thank you so much. Members, any questions? Seeing none, I'll accept a motion to amend and do pass.
Madam Chair, I'd move to amend and do pass Assembly Bill 6.
Second.
I have a motion from Assemblywoman Backus, a second from Assemblywoman Hodeggy. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nay. And the nays, please raise your hands. Where's my red pen? I have Assemblywoman Dickman and Assemblyman Hafen, Assemblywoman Kasama, and Assemblyman O'Neill, and the motion carries. I will assign the floor statement to myself. Moving on to our next bill for work session, it's Assembly Bill 7, which revises provisions relating to electronic health records. And we'll turn it over to our fiscal staff, Mr. Weiser.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For the record, Brody Leiser. Assembly Bill 7 was presented by Senator Donate on May 29th. Assembly Bill 7, as amended, authorizes the Director of the Department of Health and Human Services to contract with one or more health information exchanges to be responsible for compiling statewide master indexes of patients, healthcare providers, and payers. The bill requires the Director to prescribe standards governing the maintenance and exchange of electronic health records and prohibits the Director from requiring any person to use a health information exchange. The bill also requires medical facilities and healthcare providers beginning January 1st, 2028, to store, transmit, and exchange health records electronically in a manner that, one, allows patients to electronically access their health records, and two, provides for the interoperability of health records with the electronic health records and systems of other facilities and healthcare providers. AB 7, as amended, appropriates $3 million from the State General Fund to the department to award grants to certain small facilities and healthcare providers in small business settings to assist with the implementation of an electronic health information exchange. Regarding the fiscal impact, there was 2 fiscal notes submitted, one by the Aging and Disability Services Division relating to system costs for implementation and ongoing maintenance that would begin in fiscal year 2027, as well as contract staff that would be needed to facilitate the implementation beginning in fiscal year 2027. The amounts for those, I apologize, I should have indicated the amounts. The system implementation was $316,000. Ongoing costs for the system would be $395,520. And the contract staff costs totaled $339,822. Again, those are all beginning in fiscal year 2027. The Division of Child and Family Services had also identified a fiscal impact relating to the computer system interface costs for the health record system. That would be approximately $222,000. Both the Division of Child and Family Services and the Aging and Disability Services Division testified during the bill hearing, confirming that their costs would be out in a future biennium. And so therefore, Madam Chair, the committee would not need to amend the bill to account for any appropriations or authorizations. If the committee wishes, this bill could be moved with a motion of due pass as amended.
Members, any questions? Assemblyman O'Neill.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to, for clarification, sir, did you say this was an option program for the medical records, the doctors and/or patients? It's an opt-in type of program?
I know that, sorry, for the record, Brody Leiser, I know that the bill prohibits the director from requiring any person to use a health information exchange. It does require medical facilities and healthcare providers beginning in January 1, 2028 to store, transmit, and exchange health records electronically that in a manner would allow patients to electronically access their health records and provide for the interoperability of health records with the electronic health records and systems of other health facilities and healthcare providers. And again, that's beginning January 1, 2028.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. I'm mulling. I apologize.
That's okay. Did you need a follow-up?
No. Let me. Thank you, Chair.
All right. Any other discussion? Seeing none, I'll accept a motion to do pass as amended.
Madam Chair, I'd move to do pass as amended Assembly Bill 7.
We have a motion from Assemblywoman Bacchus, a second from Assemblywoman Hodeggy. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Please raise your hands. I have Assemblywoman Dickman, Assemblyman Hafen, Assemblywoman Kasama, and Assemblyman O'Neill as nays. The motion does carry. And I'll assign that floor statement and all floor statements for tonight to myself. Moving on to Assembly Bill 28, establishes the Nevada Baby Bonds Program.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Assembly Bill 28 was heard by the committee on May 17th. Assembly Bill 29, as amended, establishes the Nevada Baby Bonds Trust Fund, which requires the state treasurer, upon notification of the birth of a designated beneficiary, to, within the limits of money made available for the purpose, credit $3,200 to the trust fund to the designated beneficiary. A designated beneficiary is a natural person born in the state or on or after January 1st, 2024, whose birth was subject to a medical coverage provided under Medicaid or the Children's Health Insurance Program. The designated beneficiary may receive money from the trust if the beneficiary attests that they are at least 18 years old but less than 30 years old, has been a resident of the state for at least 12 months immediately preceding the submission of the claim, and will use the money for post-secondary education, to purchase a home, to start a business, or to invest in financial assets or personal capital that provides a long-term gain to the wages or wealth of the beneficiary. I would point out that an amendment was submitted by the treasurer. The amendment would reduce the general fund appropriation in section 16 from $80 million to $5 million over the biennium. So it would be $2.5 million in 2024 and $2.5 million in 2025. It would allow the treasurer to expend not more than 5% of the funds appropriated each year for administrative expenses. And it would amend section 9 to allow the state treasurer to credit $3,200 to the to the trust fund to designate beneficiaries through a random lottery system if there are not sufficient funds to cover all children born under Medicaid or the Children's Health Insurance Program in a given year. So, Madam Chair, if the committee wishes to move this bill, it would be an amend do pass as amended.
Members, any questions or discussions? Seeing none, I will accept a motion to amend and do pass as amended.
Madam Chair, I'd move to amend, do pass, and do pass as amended Assembly Bill 28.
I have a motion from Assemblywoman Backus, a second from Assemblywoman Hodeggy. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Nay. We have a nay from Assemblywoman Dickman, Assemblyman Hafen, Assemblywoman Kasama, and Assemblyman O'Neill. And the motion does carry by the members present. Thank you. Moving on to the next bill on our work session for tonight, that's Assembly Bill 128.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For the record, Brody Leiser. Assembly Bill 128 makes an appropriation to the Outdoor Education and Recreation Grant Program account for the cost of the program. Assembly Bill 128 was presented by Assemblywoman Hodeggy on May 16th and appropriates general funds of $500,000 in each fiscal year of the 2023 to 25 biennium to the Outdoor Education and Recreation Grant Program account created by NRS 407A.615. Madam Chair, there were no amendments presented during the bill hearing for this.
Thank you, members. Any questions on what you've just heard from Mr. Leiser? Members, I do have an amendment for this bill. The bill as written would appropriate $500,000 in each fiscal year for the 23-25 biennium, but Senate Bill 474 was part of the governor's recommended budget at $250,000. So I'm going to recommend that we amend this bill to be more in line to what the governor's recommendation was for $250,000 in each year of the 23-25 biennium. Any questions on the motion? Seeing none, then I will accept a motion to amend and do pass as amended.
Madam Chair, I'd move to amend and do pass as amended Assembly Bill 128.
I have a motion from Assemblywoman Backus, a second from Assemblywoman Hadigi. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously of the members present. Moving on. To Assembly Bill 201.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Assembly Bill 201 was heard by the committee on May 30th. Assembly Bill 201, as amended, expands the responsibilities related to the provisions of behavioral health services of the Commission of Behavioral Health, of the Division of Public and Behavioral Health, and the Division of Child and Family Services of the Department of Health and Human Services. The bill requires the department to quantify, track, and make recommendations on the spending of federal and state funds on children's behavioral health systems, system of care, and the reinvestment of certain savings. This bill also requires the Joint Interim Standing Committee on Health and Human Services to collaborate with various state and local entities to conduct an interim study on the feasibility of a comprehensive state plan to provide a continuum of behavioral health care services for adults and children. The bill creates a statewide mental health consortium to represent existing regional mental health consortia, and reinstates the requirement that the subcommittee on the mental health of children of the Commission on Behavioral Health creates a statewide plan for the provision of mental health services for children. The bill as amended had removed fiscal impact for the Division of Child and Family Services and the Division of Public and Behavioral Health, as well as the healthcare finance policy. With that, Madam Chair, if the committee wished to move this, it would be do pass as amended.
Thank you. Members, any questions, comments? Seeing none, I'll accept a motion to do pass as amended.
Madam Chair, I'd move to do pass as amended Assembly Bill 201.
I have a motion from Assemblywoman Backus, a second from Assemblywoman Hadigi. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Nay. We have a nay from Assemblywoman Dickman, Assemblyman Hafen, Assemblywoman Kazama, and Assemblyman O'Neill, and the motion does carry. Moving on to the next bill on our work session, it will be Assembly Bill 203.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For the record, Brody Leiser. Assembly Bill 203 revises provisions relating to special license plates. The bill was presented by Assemblyman Hafen on May 23rd. Assembly Bill 203, as amended, authorizes the combination of personalized prestige license plates and certain special license plates associated with military or public service. The bill would expand the exemption from the payment of certain parking fees to vehicles with certain specially designed license plates associated with military service to any vehicle with certain specially designed license plates and family members of persons killed in the line of duty or who died of injuries sustained while on active duty in the armed forces of the United States. Assembly Bill 203 also provides for a criminal penalty for persons who make certain false statements or submit false, fraudulent, or misleading evidence in connection with an application for certain specially designed license plates. Regarding the fiscal impact, the DMV did provide a fiscal note on the bill as amended, indicating that the revised effective date had removed their programming impact to the legacy system. There also was a fiscal note submitted by the Nevada System of Higher Education indicating that the bill as amended had removed their fiscal impact that was initially identified. So with that, Madam Chair, there would be no required amendments to add funding or authorizations for this bill. If the committee wishes, the motion could be to do pass as amended.
Members, any questions, discussion? Seeing none, I'll accept a motion to do pass as amended.
Madam Chair, I'd move to do pass as amended Assembly Bill 203.
I have a motion from Assemblywoman Bacchus, a second from Assemblywoman Hattigi. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously of the members present. Moving on to the next bill on our work session agenda is Assembly Bill 252.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Assembly Bill 232 was heard by the committee on May 30th. 252, I'm sorry, 252 was heard by the committee on May 30th. AB 252, as amended, prescribes new duties of the administrator of the Division of Museums and History of the Department of Tourism and Cultural Affairs, such as creating a website accessible to persons with disabilities, creates an account for improving access to state museums for persons with disabilities in the state general fund, and requires monies to be expended only to improve access at institutions for the division for persons with disabilities, revises membership qualifications of the Board of Museums and History, and requires the Legislative Committee on Senior Citizens, Veterans, and Adults with Special Needs to conduct a study during the 2023-24 interim on issues that exist which limit the accessibility of persons with disabilities to access the institutions of the division. There was a fiscal note from the Department of Tourism that requested $25,000 to develop and maintain the website, and that would be an appropriation in fiscal year 2025. So with that, Madam Chair, if the committee wished to move this bill, it would be an amend and do pass as amended to include the $25 million. I apologize, it is really late, 25,000.
Just a few zeros. Just a few. Yeah.
25 million for a website. System costs are expensive usually.
All right. So members, any discussion on the $25,000? See none, I'll accept a motion to amend and do pass as amended.
Madam Chair, I'd move to amend and do pass as amended Assembly Bill 252.
I have a motion from Assemblywoman Bacchus, a second from Assemblywoman Hattigi. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously of the members present. Moving on to the next bill on our work session, Assembly Bill 255.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For the record, Brody Leiser. Assembly Bill 255 revises provisions governing adoption. The bill was presented this morning by Assemblywoman Cohen. No relation to the constituent Stephen. The bill. Assembly Bill 255, as amended, authorizes an agency which provides child welfare services to provide financial assistance to a family that adopts a child with special needs until the child graduates high school or reaches 19 years of age, whichever comes first. Existing statute provides support until the child turns 18, becomes self-sustaining, or is emancipated. There was a fiscal note submitted, a revised fiscal note submitted by the Division of Child and Family Services, the Department of Health and Human Services. And there is some clarification provided about the change in the fiscal note as originally submitted versus the fiscal note as revised. The division had clarified during the bill hearing that the original fiscal note had only addressed the rurals and realized that there was a need to address Washoe and Clark counties. So I'm going to go over the appropriations and authorizations that would be needed to fund the costs for the fiscal note, which are to provide for adoption subsidies. This would impact 3 budget accounts. The first would be the Rural Child Welfare Budget Account. The funding needed in fiscal year 2024 for general fund appropriations would be $58,022 and authorizations of $78,932. In fiscal year 2025, general fund appropriations of $70,772, authorizations of $90,975. For the Washoe County Child Welfare Budget, in fiscal year 2024, general fund appropriations of $180,598, authorizations of $244,310. Fiscal year 2025, general fund appropriations of $142,587, authorizations of $182,299. In the Clark County Child Welfare Budget, fiscal year 2024, general fund appropriations of $494,830, authorizations of $694,305. In fiscal year 2025, $641,828 of general fund appropriations and authorizations of $850,107. Total for all budgets over the biennium, general fund appropriations are $1,588,637 and authorizations of $2,140,928. Madam Chair, if the committee wishes to provide funding for the adoption subsidies, the motion would be to amend to account for the general fund appropriations and authorizations. The motion would be amend, do pass as amended.
Members, any questions? Seeing none, I'll accept a motion to amend and do pass as amended.
Madam Chair, I'd move to amend and do pass as amended Assembly Bill 255.
I have a motion from Assemblywoman Bacchus, a second from Assemblywoman Hadeggy. Any discussion on the motion? Not seeing any. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously of the members present. Moving on to the next bill on our work session will be Assembly Bill 258.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Assembly Bill 258 was heard by the committee on May 19th. Assembly Bill 258, as amended, requires, with certain exceptions, a governmental entity to keep confidential any personal information in the records of governmental entities that identifies a person as a donor, member, or volunteer of a nonprofit organization, and prohibits, with certain exceptions, governmental entities from requiring that any person or nonprofit organization provide the governmental entity with personal information that identifies a donor, member, or volunteer of a nonprofit organization, releases, publicizing, or otherwise publicly disclosing personal information that identifies a donor, member, or volunteer of a nonprofit organization, or requests or requiring a current or prospective contractor or guarantee to provide a list of nonprofit organizations of which a contractor or guarantee has provided support. Madam Chair, there was an amendment that was submitted by the sponsor, and among other various policy issues, it does strike section 2.5 It changes the effective date to July 1, 2024. And it requests that $249,577 be placed in fiscal year 2025 in the IFC's restricted contingency for the department, or for the Attorney General, in the event that the Attorney General's office requires additional resources to support the potential risk of exposed growth as a result of this bill. So, Madam Chair, this would be an amend do pass as amended if the committee wishes to move this bill.
Thank you so much. Members, any questions? Seeing none, I'll accept a motion to amend and do pass as amended.
Madam Chair, I'd move to amend and do pass as amended Assembly Bill 258.
I have a motion from Assemblywoman Bacchus, a second from Assemblywoman Hodeggy. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Raise your hand. Assemblywoman Dickman. Assemblyman O'Neill. All right, the motion passes. Moving on to the next bill on our agenda, Assembly Bill 259.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For the record, Brody Leiser. Assembly Bill 259 revises provisions governing wages for persons with disabilities. This bill was presented this morning by Assemblywoman Brown May. Assembly Bill 259, as amended, prohibits providers of jobs and day training services from entering into contracts with employers to provide for the employment of persons with developmental or intellectual disabilities, a wage that is less than the state minimum wage starting January 1st, 2025, and prohibits sub-minimum wages for all such providers starting January 1st, 2028. The bill also authorizes a recipient of jobs and day training services to have an advocate present at certain employment meetings. Assembly Bill 259 requires providers of jobs and day training services to develop a plan to transition persons earning less than the state minimum wage to earning at least the state minimum wage by January 1st, 2028, or support such persons in obtaining competitive integrated employment, supported employment, or community activities related to the goals of the persons, and to assist such persons to participate in certain activities. The bill also requires the Department of Health and Human Services to amend the Medicaid Home and Community-Based Services waiver to include certain habilitation services designed to assist persons in pursuing competitive integrated employment, including benefits counseling and job coaching as medical assistance under the state plan for Medicaid, and to authorize the compensation of a recipient of Medicaid who is receiving pre-vocational services at a rate equal to or greater than the state minimum. Regarding the fiscal impact, the Aging and Disability Services Division of the Department of Health and Human Services had indicated that the service costs associated with the new habilitation services to be added to the plan for Medicaid under this act were estimated to be $1,066,080 per year, beginning in fiscal year 2025. The committee could consider to amend the bill to appropriate general funds and authorize funding for the Aging and Disability Services Division to support those service costs. In fiscal year 2025, this would require general fund appropriations of $395,729 and an authorization of $670,351. Madam Chair, if the committee wishes to account for those fundings, the motion would be to amend and do pass as amended.
Thank you so much. Members, any questions or comments? Seeing none, I'll accept a motion to amend and do pass as amended.
Madam Chair, I'd move to amend and do pass as amended Assembly Bill 259.
I have a motion from Assemblywoman Bacchus, a second from Assemblywoman Hodeggy. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously of the members present. Moving on to the next bill on our work session, Assembly Bill 260.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Assembly Bill 260 was heard on May 19th. Assembly Bill 260 exempts veteran service organizations and any agents or officers of veteran service organizations from certain business fees, including the issuance and renewal of state business licenses, filing required in connection with the registration of registered agents, and various filings to satisfy requirements imposed on a business entity. During the hearing, the Secretary of State testified that the annual fees related to the various organizations that would provide for the exemption of this would total a revenue loss of approximately $4,500 per year. Madam Chair, there would be no amendments as a result of this fiscal impact, and so if the committee wished to move this, it would be a do pass.
Thank you so much, committee members. Any questions? Seeing none, I'll accept a motion to do pass.
Madam Chair, I'd move to do pass Assembly Bill 260.
I have a motion from Assemblywoman Bacchus, a second from Assemblywoman Hadigi. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously of the members present. Moving on to Assembly Bill 261.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The next bill, Assembly Bill 261, revises provisions relating to water. This bill was presented by the Executive Director of WaterStart on May 16th. Assembly Bill 261, as amended, requires the Executive Director of the Office of Economic Development to include a statement in the State Plan for Economic Development regarding the manner in which the state can maximize the efficient use of the water resources of the state through its economic development programs. The bill requires the Office of Economic Development to conduct a study of consumptive water use and economic development of businesses receiving certain abatements and submit a report of its findings to the Governor and Director of the Legislative Council Bureau for transmittal to the 83rd session of the Nevada Legislature. Regarding the fiscal impacts, the Governor's Office of Economic Development had submitted a fiscal note initially of $25,000 associated with amending the State Plan of Economic Development. However, a subsequent fiscal note was submitted removing those costs. Originally, the Office of Energy was tasked with the study that I had noted at a cost of approximately $300,000. However, in the amendment through the Policy Committee, the responsibility of the study was revised to the Governor's Office of Economic Development. So therefore, there's no longer an impact for the Office of Energy. During the bill hearing, there was a conceptual amendment presented that would delete Section 3, which was the study. Therefore, there would be no costs associated with the study. And that amendment is posted on Nellis and also did limit the regional development authorities located in a population of over 100,000, as part of the proposed amendment. So, Madam Chair, with this bill, if the committee wishes to move it, a motion would be to amend and do pass as amended.
Thank you so much. Members, any questions or comments? Not seeing any, I will accept a motion to amend and do pass as amended Assembly Bill 261.
Madam Chair, I'd move to amend and do pass as amended Assembly Bill 261.
I have a motion from Assemblywoman Bacchus, a second from Assemblywoman Hadigi. Any discussion on the motion? Not seeing any, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously of the members present. Moving on to the next bill on our work session, Assembly Bill 263.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Assembly Bill 263 was heard by the committee on May 19th. Assembly Bill 263 as amended requires an owner or operator of a covered healthcare facility to minimize the risk of Legionnaire's disease transmissions by adopting and implementing a water management process plan for the facility's water system, which must be reviewed annually by the administrator of the Division of Public and Behavioral Health. The plan must be designed by a certified water management team and include provisions for water samples at specific locations. I would note that the sponsor of the bill submitted a conceptual amendment, and with the conceptual amendment, the Division of Public and Behavioral Health indicated that it would address their fiscal note and the fiscal impact would be eliminated. The conceptual amendment it changes the definition of covered healthcare facility to mean intermediate care facility that are CMS certified nursing homes, facilities for skilled nursing that are CMS certified skilled nursing homes, hospitals that are CMS certified as hospitals or a critical access hospital. So, Madam Chair, if the committee wished to move this bill, the motion with the conceptual amendment would be amend do pass as amended.
Thank you so much. Members, any questions or comments? Seeing none, I'll accept a motion to amend and do pass as amended.
Madam Chair, I'd move to amend and do pass as amended Assembly Bill 263.
I have a motion from Assemblywoman Bacchus, a second from Assemblywoman Hadighi. Any discussion on the motion? Not seeing any. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? I need you to keep your hands up. Thank you. I have Assemblywoman Dickman, Assemblyman Hafen, Assemblywoman Anderson, and Assemblyman O'Neill. The motion does carry. Moving on to the next bill on our agenda, it's Assembly Bill 296.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For the record, Brody Leisler, Assembly Bill 296 revises provisions governing instructional time in public schools. This bill was heard this morning and presented by Assemblyman De Silva. Assembly Bill 296, as amended, requires each school district to report to the Nevada Department of Education the aggregate time spent in each of its schools conducting and preparing for certain examinations and assessments. The bill requires the Department of Education to submit these reports to the legislature or the Joint Interim Standing Committee on Education, develop regulations prohibiting the use of more than 2% of the total number of annual minutes of attendance for such purposes, and provide assistance and develop corrective action plans for schools that use more than 2% of the total number of annual minutes of attendance for such purposes. There was some discussion around the fiscal impact. Initially, the Department of Education had submitted a no impact fiscal note on the bill as introduced. Following the amendment out of the policy committee, information was provided by the Department of Education indicating that they would need 51 full-time equivalent staff to address the workload required by the bill as amended. However, during the bill hearing this morning, Assemblyman De Silva presented a proposed amendment to section 1.5 of the bill that would amend section 1.5, I believe paragraph, let me find, 1.5 subsection 4 to read, on or before July 1st, 2025, the department shall develop a plan on how it will provide assistance to schools that violate the limitation described in paragraph A of subsection 2 of NRS 390.805, and to create a corrective action plan for such school to limit the time to conduct or prepare for an examination or assessment to not more than 2% of the total number of annual minutes of attendance required for a pupil. With that amendment, that would just require the department to develop a plan rather than provide each school with assistance. During the bill hearing, the superintendent of public education testified that the proposed amendment by Assemblyman De Silva would remove NDE from the work with every single school and therefore remove their fiscal impact. Therefore, Madam Chair, if the committee wishes to move this bill with the amendment proposed by Assemblyman De Silva, there would be no requirement to add appropriations or authorizations, as the Department of Education did confirm during the hearing that their fiscal impact would be removed. Therefore, the motion would be to amend and do pass as amended.
Thank you so much. Members, any questions or comments? Seeing none, then I will accept a motion to amend and do pass as amended.
Madam Chair, I'd move to amend and do pass as amended Assembly Bill 296.
I have a motion from Assemblywoman Bacchus, a second from Assemblywoman Heidegger. Any discussion on the motion? Assemblyman Hafen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have read the proposed conceptual amendment. I'm going to vote this out of committee today. Look forward to seeing the amendment on the floor. However, I do want to reserve my right to change on the floor, so thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Seeing none, we have a motion on the floor. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously of the members present. Moving on, the next bill on our agenda is Assembly Bill 310.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Assembly Bill 310 was heard in committee on May 19th. Assembly Bill 310, as amended, requires the Housing Division of the Department of Business and Industry, subject to the availability of funds appropriated for such a purpose, to develop and implement a supportive housing grant program. The program must include a process for applying for a grant to procure and develop supportive housing, fund the operation of supportive housing partnerships. The division must consult with the Nevada Interagency Advisory Council on Homelessness to house before approving any applications for a grant to procure and develop supportive housing, adopt regulations to carry out the grant program, which must include the criteria for eligibility to receive money and procedures for the submission and review of applications, and submit an annual report containing certain information about the grant program to the governor and the director of the Legislative Council Bureau. The bill also creates the Nevada Supportive Housing and Development Fund in the state treasury to be used to carry out the grant program, and makes an appropriation from the state general fund to the Housing Development Fund in an amount of $32.2 million. With respect to the fiscal aspect of the bill, as previously indicated, there is $32.2 million in general fund appropriations that are provided for in Section 4 of the bill. With regard to the fiscal note, there was a fiscal note that was submitted by the Department of Business and Industry, which is inclusive of the $32.2 million in fiscal year 2024. The sponsor of the bill did testify that for the $282,302 that were anticipated in expenditures for fiscal year 2025, that funding source would be available through gifts, grants, and donations in order to cover those expenditures. So, Madam Chair, if the committee wished to move this bill, it would be a do pass as amended, or do pass as amended.
Thank you so much. Members, any questions? Assemblyman O'Neill.
Just one quick question. The 32.2 is coming out of one-shot money, if I understand correctly.
That is correct.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you. Members, any other questions? Seeing none, I'll accept a motion to do pass as amended.
Madam Chair, I'd move to do pass as amended Assembly Bill 310.
I have a motion from Assemblywoman Bacchus, a second from Assemblywoman Heidegger. Any discussion on the motion? Assemblywoman Dickman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm having a little trouble with this one, but I will vote yes to get it out of committee and reserve. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. We have a motion on the floor. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously of the members present. Thank you all. Moving on to the next item on our agenda, it's Assembly Bill 319.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For the record, Brody Leiser. Assembly Bill 319 makes an appropriation to the Department of Education for universal free breakfast and lunch for Nevada pupils. This bill was presented by Assemblywoman Howdiggy on May 19th. As introduced, Assembly Bill 319 appropriates general funds of $50 million in each fiscal year of the 2023 to 25 biennium to the Department of Education to award grants to Nevada school districts to provide universal free breakfast and lunch to Nevada students. During the bill hearing, Assemblywoman Howdiggy did present an amendment to move the funding to the Department of Agriculture, who currently oversees this program, and the amendment would also remove the fiscal year 2024 appropriation and reduce the fiscal year 2025 appropriation from $50 million to $43 million based on projections provided by the department to provide the universal free breakfast and lunch. And I would just note that the appropriation being removed from fiscal year 2024. In closing the budgets, the money committees did approve American Rescue Plan Act, Coronavirus State Fiscal Recovery Funds in fiscal year 2024 to provide for the universal free school meals for the 23-24 school year. And again, that is the reason why the appropriation was being removed from fiscal year 2024 as part of the amendment. Madam Chair, if the committee wishes to move the bill, the motion would be to amend and do pass.
Thank you so much. Members, any questions? Seeing none, I'll accept a motion to amend and do pass.
Madam Chair, I'd move to amend and do pass Assembly Bill 319.
I have a motion from Assemblywoman Bacchus, a second from Assemblyman Watts. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? We have a nay from Assemblywoman Dickman, Assemblyman Hafen, and Assemblyman O'Neill. The motion does pass. Moving on to the next bill on our agenda, it's Assembly Bill 349.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Assembly Bill 349 was heard in committee on May 30th. Assembly Bill 349 as amended establishes the Nevada Wildlife Conservation Program to support preservation, protection, management, and restoration of wildlife and wildlife habitat. Assembly Bill 349 as amended also creates the Nevada Wildlife Conservation Programs account in the State General Fund and requires that money in the account to be used to provide matching funds for the for federal grants or for the preservation, protection, management, and restoration of wildlife and wildlife habitat. The bill provides that any unexpended money in the account, including a direct legislative appropriation, does not revert to the general fund at the end of a fiscal year, and any interest earned in the account must stay within the account. Assembly Bill 349 directs the money in the Nevada Wildlife Conservation Program account to be used in accordance with any recommendations of the Board of Nevada Wildlife Conservation Programs, which consists of 3 members whose qualifications duties are outlined in Section 4 of the bill. With regards to the fiscal impact, as amended, the Department of Wildlife did submit a fiscal note on the bill as introduced, but indicated that with the amendment, there could be no fiscal impact that is determined at this time. So with that, Madam Chair, if the committee wished to move this bill, it would be a do pass as amended.
Thank you so much. Members, any questions? Seeing none, I'll accept a motion to amend, to do pass as amended.
Madam Chair, I'd move to do pass as amended Assembly Bill 349.
I have a motion from Assemblywoman Backus, a second from Assemblywoman Hadigi. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item on our agenda is Assembly Bill 422.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For the record, Brody Leiser. Assembly Bill 422 revises provisions relating to fetal alcohol spectrum disorders. This bill was heard this morning and presented by Assemblywoman Gorlow. Assembly Bill 422 requires the Department of Health and Human Services, Aging and Disability Services Division to create a pilot program to be administered by the Autism Treatment Assistance Program to provide evidence-based services and support for children diagnosed with fetal alcohol spectrum disorder who do not meet the requirements to receive such services from existing programs. The bill, as amended, additionally requires the division to submit a report of findings and recommendations resulting from the pilot program by July 1st, 2025 to the governor and the director of the Legislative Council Bureau for transmittal to the Joint Interim Standing Committee on Health and Human Services. The Aging and Disability Services Division had submitted a fiscal note identifying the total fiscal impact of approximately $2.6 million in fiscal year 2024 and $2.6 million in fiscal year 2025. The costs were associated with contract staff, travel, equipment, and operating costs, as well as full-time state staff and program training costs. During the bill hearing, Assemblywoman Gorlow presented proposed amendment, which is posted on Nellis, and among other things, the proposed amendment clarifies that the pilot program would be to the extent that money is available. During the bill hearing this morning, the Aging and Disability Services Division did testify and confirm that with the amendment, the fiscal impact could be removed, and I believe indicated that there may be federal funds that would be available to assist with this pilot program. Therefore, Madam Chair, if the committee wishes to move this bill, there would be no requirement to add general funds or authorizations. If the committee wishes to do that and move forward with the amendment presented by Assemblywoman Gorlow, the motion would be to amend do pass as amended.
Thank you so much. Members, any questions? Seeing none, I'll accept a motion to amend and do pass as amended.
Madam Chair, I'd move to amend and do pass as amended Assembly Bill 422.
I have a motion from Assemblywoman Backus, a second from Assemblywoman Hadigi. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously of the members present. Moving on to the next bill on our work session will be Assembly Bill 428.
I thought they fixed it. Thank you, Madam Chair. Assembly Bill 428 was heard by the committee on May 19th. As amended, it requires the treasurer to establish a tuition reimbursement program for individuals who complete a teacher academy college pathway or who have worked as a full-time licensed teacher in a public school for 3 years. In addition, Assembly Bill 428 requires the Governor's Office of Workforce Innovation to establish and administer a career path demonstration program to develop and implement career pathways that will enable students to prepare for employment in professions which serve as long-term needs of the state. Assembly Bill 429 as amended also requires Clark County School District to offer a teacher academy college pathway program at every high school in the school district to enable pupils in grades 10 through 12 to prepare for employment in the profession of K-12 education. The sponsor of the bill did submit a conceptual amendment that includes a $10 million appropriation to the Treasurer's Office to fund the tuition abatement program. This will go into an interest-bearing account that does not anticipate being drawn for 5 or more years. It also creates payments to individuals, which would be 1/3 over a 3-year period. It provides language for expanding the program to other work-based learning opportunities, and it clarifies that the program requires high schools with at least 250 students. So with that, Madam Chair, if the committee wished to approve this, it would be an amend, do pass as amended with the additional $10 million.
Thank you so much. Members, any questions? Assemblywoman Anderson.
Thank you, Chair, and I want to thank Vice Chair Bacchus for working on this. I just want to verify that that $10 million would be available for students that are graduating from schools that are also outside of Clark County, although it is only schools inside or the large school district that would need to have an academy in every school site. So I just want to verify, though, that other schools are able to apply for it that are not in Washoe County, or not in Clark County, excuse me.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I would have to look at the amendment. I don't have it in front of me, but I do believe that the intent is for anyone that does complete the program. And so if a school outside of the largest school district decides to have the Pathways program at their school, then a student that goes through the Pathways program would be eligible to continue on to a school within our state, subject to NSHE. And once they finish the program and have additional, it's the last funds, and that would be provided for in that $10 million appropriation.
One moment, members.
Madam Chair, I apologize. I overlooked that there was also a fiscal impact for the Department of Employment, Training, and Rehabilitation in the amount of $289,026 in 2024 and $331,870 in fiscal year 2025. This is primarily for the Governor's Office of Workforce Innovation for a New Nevada. To comply with this, they would require a Management Analyst 3 position. The agency also indicates it would need a Management Analyst 1 position to serve as a program coordinator, and it is estimated that these positions would incur approximately $1,500 in in-state travel costs per year to support the Career Pathways demonstration program based on the agency's prior experience. There is also an estimated $250,000 for software solutions. That is included in that cost. So, Madam Chair, that would also need to be appropriated to the Department of Employment and Training and Rehabilitation, in addition to the amendment that includes the $10 million for the grant.
Thank you so much for that clarification. Members, any questions or comments with that additional information? Seeing none, I'll accept a motion to amend and do pass as amended.
Madam Chair, I would move to amend and do pass as amended, Assembly Bill 428.
I have a motion from Assemblywoman Peters, a second from Assemblywoman Hodeggy. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously of the members present. Moving on to our next bill on our work session, which is Assembly Bill 434.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For the record, Assembly Bill 434 revises provisions governing prescription drugs. This bill was presented by Assemblywoman Taylor this morning. Assembly Bill 434, as amended, prohibits pharmacy benefit managers and health carriers, including governmental entities that provide coverage for employees, from discriminating against a covered entity that participates in the 340B program to purchase drugs at a discounted rate, or a pharmacy that contracts with such an entity with regard to reimbursement, prohibiting a program administered by the Department of Health and Human Services to provide therapeutics to persons with human immunodeficiency virus from taking similar action. The bill also imposes certain limitations on the use of money available to administer the program to provide therapeutics to persons with human immunodeficiency virus. There was a proposed amendment presented at the bill hearing, which is posted on Nellis. The conceptual amendment would includes language in section 1.2 that clarifies provisions of the bill do not apply to covered drugs paid through Medicaid managed care organizations. During the bill hearing this morning, the Division of Healthcare Finance and Policy confirmed that with the proposed amendment, there would be no fiscal impact. And there's testimony by the Division of Public and Behavioral Health indicating that a cost could not be determined. Madam Chair, with the proposed amendment, if the committee wished to move the bill, there would be no need to add appropriations or authorizations, and the motion would be to amend and do pass as amended.
Thank you so much. Members, any questions or comments on Assembly Bill 434? Seeing none, I will accept a motion to amend and do pass as amended.
Madam Chair, I'd move to amend and do pass as amended Assembly Bill 434.
We have a motion from Assemblywoman Backus, a second from Assemblywoman Hodeggy. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously of the members present. Moving on to the next bill on our work session, that's Assembly Bill 468.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Assembly Bill 468 was heard by the committee on May 27th. The bill, as introduced, provides for the following one-time appropriations for certain costs related to Enterprise Resource Planning System, a one-time general fund appropriation of approximately $21.6 million, and a one-time appropriation of $5 million from the Highway Fund for costs associated with implementing the Enterprise Resource Planning System, as well as a one-time general fund appropriation of $36,425 and a one-time highway fund appropriation of $8,544 for the replacement of computer hardware and associated software of the Operations Center for the Enterprise Resource Planning System. The committee may recall that during the hearing, there was testimony from the director of the governor's finance office, and she had indicated that the state was taking a different direction with the Enterprise Resource Planning System, and as such, there would be a total required amount of $206.4 million for this new system. She had indicated that that estimate was based off of the average of previously solicited bids that were provided by vendors, as well as a 20% inflation factor, a 25% increase for PEB and grant-related modules. And that also included $10 million related, that was provided for American Rescue Plan Act dollars. The committee did ask the director to provide a revised estimate which excluded the 25% that was provided for the additional modules. And as such, the director did provide that information. She indicated that the amount for the previously solicited average bids equated to $131.9 million. The inflation factor that was then applied to that amount was $26.3 million, and excluding the various modules, the total amount would be $158.3 million for a one-time appropriation for the system. That is not inclusive of the $10 million in additional funding for the American Rescue Plan Act. So, Madam Chair, if the committee wished to approve this, it would be general fund appropriations of $158,340,629 and American Rescue Plan Act dollars of $10 million. And this would be an amend and do pass if the committee were to approve this.
Thank you so much. Members, any questions or comments? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to amend and do pass.
Madam Chair, I'd move to amend and do pass Assembly Bill 468.
I have a motion from Assemblywoman Backus, a second from Assemblywoman Hattagee. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimous of the members present. Moving on to the next bill on our work session, which is Assembly Bill 480.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Assembly Bill 480 was heard by the committee on May 16th. It provides a general fund appropriation of $25 million for the executive department agencies to implement language access plans required by the required pursuant to NRS 232.0081. The Governor's Finance Office did provide a conceptual amendment to change the appropriation to be funded to the special appropriations budget and have the Board of Examiners administer the funds rather than having the funds go to the IFC restricted contingency account, which is where the money would go in the bill as introduced. So, Madam Chair, if you wish to make those changes to have the money provided for in the special appropriations, it would be an do pass, amend, do pass.
Thank you, members. We will not be accepting the motion as presented, and then the monies would still go to the IFC. So, members, I will accept any discussion on that.
Just for clarification, Madam Chair, I believe it was 25 million would go to IFC for approval then? Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair.
Any other discussion? All right, I will accept a motion to do pass.
Madam Chair, I'd move to do pass Assembly Bill 480.
I have a motion from Assemblywoman Backus, a second from Assemblywoman Hattagee. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any nays? Motion carries unanimously of the members present. Thank you. Members, I need to kind of backtrack back to Assembly Bill 468. After voting on this measure, we realized that in the amended version from the GFO, there was not listed the funds that would be coming from the highway fund. So I will ask if the makers of the motion and the second will rescind their vote, and we will work session this one at a later time when we have those dollars amount corrected.
Madam Chair, I'd move to rescind my motion to amend and do pass Assembly Bill 468.
I have a motion from Assemblywoman Backus and a second from Assemblywoman Hadigi to rescind the vote, the motions on the vote for Assembly Bill 468. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the rescinding of the motion and the vote? Aye. Thank you. You all will see this, don't make me hurt you. Moving on to the next item on our agenda is Assembly Bill 482.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For the record, Brody Leiser. Assembly Bill 482 makes appropriations to the Enterprise Application Services Unit of the Division of Enterprise Information Technology Services of the Department of Administration for the replacement of an information technology service management provider and computer hardware and associated software. This bill was presented by Administrator Galuzzi on May 15th. The bill appropriates general funds to the Division of Enterprise Information Technology Services, including $299,974 for the replacement of the information technology service management provider and $122,958 for the replacement of computer hardware and associated software. I would note that pursuant to NRS 242.211, the entire cost of services provided by EATS must be recovered through user fees. Senate Bill 446 was requested by the governor in order to allow EATS to be appropriated general funds. The one-time general fund appropriations in Assembly Bill 482 would be dependent upon the passage and approval of Senate Bill 446. Senate Bill 446 is currently in Senate Finance. Madam Chair, given the requirements of NRS 242.211 that all costs for services provided by EATS be recovered through user fees, as an alternative to the bill as introduced, the committee could consider appropriating the general funds as recommended, but do so as a loan and require that EATS repay the general fund. The bill could be amended to clarify that the appropriation is a loan and require that EATS repay the general fund in annual installments over a 4-year period, with the loan repayments commencing on July 1st, 2025. That would be fiscal year 2026. That time frame would allow for EATS to build in the repayment costs into their rates that they charge their users, beginning with the 2025 to 27 biennium. So, Madam Chair, the consideration again could be to either pass the bill as introduced, which would be dependent upon the passage and approval of Senate Bill 446, or alternatively amend the bill to require that the appropriation be a loan with the repayment schedule as described.
Thank you so much for that, and it will be the wishes of the chair to make the appropriations as a loan and require each to repay the general fund. So we would be amending the bill with that language. Members, any questions? Seeing none, I'll accept a motion to amend and do pass.
Madam Chair, I'd move to amend and do pass Assembly Bill 482.
I have a motion from Assemblywoman Backus, a second from Assemblywoman Hadigi. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimous of the members who are present. Moving on, the next item on our work session will be Assembly Bill 487.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Assembly Bill 487 was heard by the committee on May 15th. It appropriates general fund appropriations of $17,147 to the Department of Administration's Division of Enterprise Information Technology Services for computer hardware and software. As indicated by Mr. Leiser, NRS 242.211 provides that the EITS must cover their entire cost through user fees. And as previously indicated, in order to provide a similar motion as provided for in the previous bill, Assembly Bill 482, the committee may wish to consider providing this as a general fund appropriation in this current biennium. However, request that the agency pay back this as a general fund loan over the course of 4 years, beginning in fiscal year 2026 and concluding in at the end of fiscal year 2029. So, Madam Chair, if the committee wished to provide a similar motion to AB 482, it would be an amend and do pass.
Thank you so much. And members, to be consistent in the bill that we just passed, it'll be the chair's inclination to amend and do passes as a general fund loan. Any questions? Seeing none, I'll accept a motion to amend and do pass.
Madam Chair, I'd move to amend and do pass Assembly Bill 487.
I have a motion from Assemblywoman Bacchus, a second from Assemblywoman Hodeggy. Any discussion on the motion? Not seeing any. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimous of the members present. Moving on to the next item on our work session, it'll be Assembly Bill 488.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For the record, Assembly Bill 488 makes appropriations to the Communication and Computing Unit of the Division of Enterprise Information Technology Services of the Department of Administration for the replacement of computer hardware and associated software, replacement of components of a security firewall, and security upgrades to mountaintop microwave sites. This bill was heard on May 15th. Includes appropriations of $101,678 for the computer facility budget for replacement computer hardware or software, $33,042 for the data communications and network engineering budget for replacement computer hardware and software, $1,280,928 for the data communications and network engineering budget for the replacement of security firewall components, $26,082 for the telecommunications budget for replacement computer hardware software, $27,945 for the network transport services budget for replacement computer hardware software, and $141,949 for the network transport services budget for security upgrades to mountaintop microwave sites. Again, similar to the last two bills, NRS 242.211 requires the entire cost of services provided by EATS to be recovered through user fees. In a manner consistent with the motion taken on the previous two bills, Madam Chair, it would seem that the committee may wish to amend this bill to appropriate the funds for the purposes that I had noted, but do so as a loan and require that EATS repay the general fund. The amendment would clarify that the appropriation is a loan and require that EATS repay the general fund in annual installments over a 4-year period, with the loan repayments commencing on July 1st, 2025, or in fiscal year 2026. Again, allowing the division sufficient time to build the associated repayment costs into their rates beginning with the 2025-27 biennium. Madam Chair, consistent with the last two bills, the motion would be to amend and do pass to account for the general fund loan component.
Thank you so much. Members, any questions? Seeing none, to be consistent with what we've done in the last two bills, I'll accept a motion to amend and do pass.
Madam Chair, I'd move to amend and do pass Assembly Bill 488.
We have a motion from Assemblywoman Bacchus, a second from Assemblywoman Hodeggy. Any discussion on the motion? Not seeing any. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimous with the members present. Moving on to the next bill in our work session, it'll be Assembly Bill 506.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Assembly Bill 506 was heard by the committee on May 19th. Assembly Bill 506 provides a general fund appropriation of $272,082, which consists of $246,000 to the Office of Chief Information Officer's budget for the replacement of systems for tracking information technology investments. And it also provides $26,082 for the Office of the Chief Information Officer budget account to replace computer hardware and associated software. As previously indicated in the last three budgets, this bill is being provided a general fund appropriation. However, pursuant to NRS 242.211, the entire cost of services provided by EATS must be recovered through user fees, and as such, the committee may wish to consider a similar motion to the previous three bills, which provides a loan in the amount of $272,082 for this biennium, and having the loan repaid commencing in fiscal year 2026 and concluding in fiscal year 2029. So, Madam Chair, if the committee wished to approve this as a general fund loan, it would be an amend and do pass.
Thank you so much. Members, being consistent and the work that we've been doing on those last three bills, I will accept a motion to amend and do pass.
Madam Chair, I'd move to amend and do pass Assembly Bill 506.
I have a motion from Assemblywoman Bacchus, a second from Assemblywoman Hodeggy. Any discussion on the motion? Not seeing any. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously of the members who are present. And the next bill on our agenda will be Assembly Bill 507.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For the record, Brody Leiser. Assembly Bill 507 makes appropriations to the Department of Corrections for a staffing study and the replacement or purchase of computer hardware and software, various types of equipment, vehicles, and systems. The bill was presented by Deputy Director Shea of the Department of Corrections on May 19th. I will spare the committee with going through each of the various sections, unless you would like me to do so, Madam Chair. If not, I would summarize and indicate that in total, Assembly Bill 507 as introduced would appropriate $6,887,426. Again, this is for, this would include funding for replacement medical equipment, staffing study, computer hardware equipment, exercise area enclosures, commercial kitchen and laundry equipment, commercial bakery oven, inmate replacement vehicles for inmate transportation, emergency battery system, security cameras, x-ray scanners, garbage truck, metal detectors, food delivery system, stab-resistant custody vests, utility carts for on-site transportation, among other things as outlined in the bill. I would note that during the bill hearing, the Department of Corrections did propose an amendment. That amendment would do several things. First, the amendment would appropriate the funds identified in sections 3 through 25 inclusive to a separate budget account specifically for one-time appropriations for transparency and tracking purposes. The proposed amendment would also reduce the appropriation in section 4 for switch hardware. It would reduce that appropriation from $3,022,392 to $2,822,306. The amendment also would remove the appropriation from section 16 for the Humboldt Conservation Camp for the purchase of security cameras, as that institution was not funded to be open over the upcoming biennium. And lastly, the proposed amendment would take the amounts that were reduced in section 4, that was a reduction of $200,000, and the reduction in section 16 of $40,000 would take those reductions of $240,000 and has requested to reallocate that funding to purchase operating ammunition, munitions, and ammo storage lockers. The proposed amendment is posted on Nellis. So, Madam Chair, the committee could accept one or more of the amendment components proposed by the department, and if so, motion would be to amend and do pass, depending on the decisions that, or direction that's provided by the chair.
Thank you, Mr. Leiser, for that explanation of the bill and the amendment, and you're going to hate me. We're going to pull this bill from today's work session, and we will look at this one again tomorrow as we do additional work sessions. And I apologize for that. Don't hurt me. I know, and he did such a great job. Members, that was the last bill on tonight's work session. We have a long day ahead of us tomorrow, so bring snacks. We have a long day and a long night tomorrow, so bring a few snacks. All right? And that takes us to the last item on today's agenda, and that would be public comment. If there's anyone here in Carson City that would like to provide public comment, I invite you to the table now. Not seeing anyone. Not seeing anyone in Las Vegas. BPS, do we have anyone joining us on the phone line that would like to make public comment?
If you would like to provide public comment, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue.
Madam Chair and members of the committee, this is Dora Martinez. Thank you so much for voting our bill. My daughter said you guys all passed it unanimously, so I really appreciate you guys. Have a good night. Drive safe. Thank you. See you tomorrow.
Thank you. Good night. Next caller?
Sure, there are no additional callers at this time.
All right, with that, members, guess I'll see you in just a few minutes downstairs on the floor, and then bright and early again tomorrow morning. This meeting is adjourned.